Who in this group could you see becoming a must-start in fantasy of the year 2, 3 tight ends? Who could be a must-start in fantasy?
Besides Pitts?
Sure, we put him in there. Pitts one. Who else?
Dulcich.
Freiermuth.
How
far do we want to go with could?
I think I'm done with could. I mean, I guess maybe Okonkwo.
So I 100% believe if Zach Ertz is gone, that Trey McBride could be a must-start tight end. All it would require is him living up to his ability and getting the same number of targets that Ertz has in the past. And I think Okonkwo could. I don't think it's near as likely.
Imagine this scenario for McBride, where they get, obviously they're not going to have a great quarterback to start the year because Kyler they'll expect back at some point. Ertz is on the shelf, if not off the team. Hopkins is off the team. Marquise Brown would be the number one target. We know that he has a hard time staying healthy. McBride's got a shot. Heath, you're right, to really pick up a ton of targets and to really get involved in an offense that's different now. Because we've seen the Cliff Kingsbury offenses before not feature tight ends. They haven't had a major role. Ertz kind of bucked that trend. But this is a new offense now. We really don't know what kind of an offense this is going to be. There is no book on Drew Petzing as the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. But if it's a West Coast system and he came from one, the tight end's going to get a lot of use. McBride belongs in this conversation. He could be a must-start tight end.
McBride played 12 games in 2021 for Colorado State. He had 1,121 yards, only one touchdown.
90-something catches.
90 catches on the nose and about 90 yards per game or whatever. I don't know. 1121 divided by 12. But, very impressive production and a high pedigree. So you guys said 5 guys that you could see as must-starts this year. Kyle Pitts, Greg Dulcich, Pat Freiermuth, Chigo Okonkwo, Trey McBride. And the one guy that I'd like to talk a little bit more about, and then we'll settle on some emails at the end of the show at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com, is Greg Dulcich, guys. Heath, you seem to be pretty high on him. You have him in your top 10. He had a really good – he missed the first 5 games of the season. He missed the last 2 games of the season. Both were soft tissue injuries. But started out great. First 3 games were really impressive for Greg Dulcich. And then after that, he really faded. He by the way, scored double-digit PPR fantasy points in all 3 of his first 3 games. Then he faded. Only 2 games in his last 7 with more than 7.2 PPR fantasy points. All right, tell me why you like Greg Dulcich.
He exhibited some things as a rookie tight end that we don't generally see from them. He had the pedigree coming in as the second best tight end in this class. He has the long hair that bounces on his shoulder pads. It makes him look like he's running faster. And I think that there's going to be a chunk of tight end targets designated for the tight end in this offense.
Dave?
He's absolutely worth targeting after pick number 100 in your draft, and you might even get so excited that you'll get him at 95 or 96. The reason why you should be excited about Dulcich is because he's a good move tight end. He's got just enough speed and elusiveness for his size. And he's a big kid too, just like McBride. Sean Payton's track record with tight ends, you can go back and look at it in New Orleans. You know that it's been really good. Not quite as good as running backs, but still very, very good. And I like the fact that he lined up in the slot 46% of the time last year. And if he keeps that up, then he's certainly got the profile of being more like Mark Andrews and less like George Kittle. And I would like that very much. I think that he's got a chance. Does he have the chance to be the number 2 target getter in Denver as the team stands now? That's the one thing that feels a little tricky to me. But between Judy maybe being on and off the field and Sutton regressing, I could see it happening. So I like him as one of those tight ends that you miss out on the studs early. You get to round 9, you take Greg Dulcich, maybe you back him up with Okonkwo or McBride, and you use him as your starter to begin the year.
Okay, give me your quick thoughts to end the show on following players. Cade Otton of Tampa Bay.
I think he's been overlooked on this show and has a little more upside than we've given him credit for, but they need to trade one of Godwin or Evans for that to come into fruition.
I agree. He actually led all first and second year tight ends in red zone targets last year with 15. He's absolutely going to be a part of this Bucs offense. I'm just not sure how much usage he will get. So not quite in that same range as Okonkwo and McBride, but maybe right behind.
Yeah. I don't really care that much about stats for guys who had 65 targets as a rookie tight end. So I'm just going to say this as
15 of his 65 targets were red zone targets, and you don't care.
No, I was going to say a different stat.
Oh.
I'm just going to say this as this is interesting, just a fun note for football fans. Of the 34 tight ends who had 40 or more targets, Kate Otten was dead last in yards per route run. He had a very, very inefficient season. Okay. Who's next? Jake Ferguson for the Cowboys.
Potential replacement for Dalton Schultz. Another solid move tight end. Actually had a high target per route run last year, 21.2%. He just didn't get a lot of targets. Someone to keep an eye on in training camp. Definitely someone to keep an eye on in dynasty play.
If he's the starter, I'll probably rank him in the top 15 because the Cowboys pretty much always throw 100 passes to a tight end.
He had one game with more than 3 targets. Jake Ferguson had 6 targets at the Eagles with Cooper Rush at quarterback, 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Daniel Bellinger had a 4-yard ADOT, and I thought that was low. Jake Ferguson actually had a 3.5-yard ADOT.
Yes, he did.
But Bellinger, guys, quick thought on Bellinger.
I don't think it's particularly likely he'll be top 2 on the Giants in targets, and really view him as more of a touchdown or bust tight end from week to week.
Okay. Jelani Woods for the Colts, who had an 8-catch, 98-yard game against the Steelers.
I loved that game.
Jelani Woods.
I like him because he's such an outlier physically. He's 6'7" and like 250 pounds, but he runs like he's 6'7" and 250 pounds. Unlikely to be top 2 in targets on the Colts. Probably more of a plus size touchdown or bust tight end.
Stream him whenever he plays on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
I think he had 2 good games all year, and they were both on Monday Night Football.
Oh, all right. That's 2 games too many for the Colts on Monday Night Football. Carolina's Tommy Tremble. Anyone care about Tommy Tremble?
I think he's a pretty good talent. I think he's an ascending talent. He just doesn't get a lot of opportunities.
Okay. I mean,
unlikely he'll be top 2 in targets in Carolina.
Yes. Jelani Woods had more receiving yards on Monday than he did on Sunday.
Wow. By the way, Dave keeps talking about top 2 in targets on your team. We've established that with 2022 being kind of an exception, almost every top 5 tight end at the end of the year is in PPR is top 2 on his team in targets. There were 2 exceptions this year, but this past year. But Dave, we're not talking about top 5 guys. This group doesn't need to be top 2 on their team in targets, but that's what Dave keeps bringing up. But Isaiah Likely for the Ravens.
I like him. I think he's more receiver than tight end, so he's kind of in that Kyle Pitts mold. And I think that there's some second-year potential for him to do some good things in that Baltimore offense. But that being said, can he be top 2 in targets there? I'd be surprised. But he could be 3rd. He could be 3rd or 4th. I think he's a good player, but probably not going to get the opportunity that we'd want.
Likely a starter if Andrews misses time.
Not only would I say likely a starter, I would say that likely is a must-add player. If Andrews were to miss the season, I think likely would end up as a top 12 tight end in ADP.
So in a tight end premium league, if you get Andrews, is likely a must get?
I'm not sure I'd go that far.
You'd
Okay.
say it's unlikely?
Brevin Jordan for the Texans.
No thanks.
Yeah, I'm passing on Brevin Jordan.